I bought some land on a public auction site that the government is selling, and I bought some parcels here in northern Arizona, as you can see with all the trees behind me, and I love it out here. But I want to tell you about some more land that's being sold right now. 120 acres for like $5,000? Just a little more than $5,000, you could buy 120 acres. But what's the value? Is it worth it? Would I buy it? Well, that's what we're going to cover in this video. Okay, we're at publicsurplus.com. Here's the main website. You can select your region here, all the states. We'll do that in 1 second. I just want to show you, if you click on to the left side of the screen, here's all your options. We're going to click on real estate. So we have many pages. Let's go up to 6. So beyond 6 pages. There's a lot of stuff being sold throughout the United States on this website. So take a moment to look at these pieces of property throughout the United States. So we're going to go to Arizona, because that's where I'm at, and this is what I'm looking at. And there is 4 pages. All right. So this is the land that we're looking at. This is publicsurplus.com website. And we clicked on to these parcels being sold. The current bid is $5,400. So there is some bidding going on these parcels. And here's the 3 parcels, what equates to just around 120 acres. So 120 acres, current bid would be $5,400, and you need to look at all the things that are involved in bidding on this. That's something that you need to research and find out about, and remember that this is not financial advice. This is entertainment purposes only. You need to do your own due diligence. I'm just going to show you some things I'm looking at. That does not mean anything. It's just entertainment purposes only, folks. So we're going to look at this parcel, which is in the middle of these 3. But you can see that it's coming up this road right here. This is in the middle of these 2 parcels. And you can see here's each one of these. And then take note of this little structure here, whatever that might be. And then also that there is a homestead right here. Looks like 80 acres approximately. You can see there's a road here coming through here. And we're going to click on to Google Earth. So here it is. Remember this little structure? This is that road. Oh, there is something there. What is that? Wow. There is something on this property, folks. What is that? I have no idea. I thought it was just a marker, but there is something going on right here. Look how the darkness is around here. What is that? A cow pond? What is this structure, folks? So, there you go. There's something going on here. Looks like something here too. Remnants of something on this property. So you want a high clearance vehicle, four-wheel drive. You're going to drive out here. These 2 here, I believe, is the coordinates that chat came up with me for. So that's interesting. I did not think that this was there's something on here. That's as far as I can zoom in. That's interesting. That truly is interesting. And then you can see this gouge. Could you block this off, make a little lake? I don't know. I love to fish. And then here is this little structure that's not on this parcel. These are not. And so you got a little mountain, it looks like here. You look at this. That mountain is your mountain. Let's go back. You see it? Essentially, the top of this mountain is your mountain. And then you got another little hill. I wouldn't even call these mountains, but interesting, the terrain. And you can see whatever this structure is here, there's something going on right here. I don't know what that is, but I wouldn't even call it a structure. There's something there, okay, folks? There's something here that needs to be investigated. If I was in the area, I'd probably drive out there just because I'm interested in the land, but I'm not bidding on this land, folks. This is something I'm not bidding on. Now, Cochise County is interesting. And the reason is there is a owner-builder amendment, often called the opt-out program. That's what's interesting about this, because this property that they're selling here has a potential of doing this. You can do the opt-out program. We're going to talk more about that because there's other people doing it and they're YouTubers. And they, because this is a very rural land. Unless you're planning on spending a lot of money drilling wells, is there water there? All these things. What's your plans for this property if you were to buy it? I look at property as the worst case scenario. What was I going to do with this property? If I wanted to live on it, I would prepare myself to haul in water, and that would be what happens forever. And better yet, build a giant system where I catch water. When I catch water and I put them in giant cisterns under the ground, and that's how I would think about water. Would I someday drill a well? What would I do? My needs for electricity, completely solar. There's no option for electric out there, folks. This is off grid. So that's how you need to look at this property. This is a major off-grid scenario. So let's talk about the opt-out program. It does not waive permits. So you still got to get your permits, but for qualifying rural residential land, it can be an owner-builder avoid normal construction plan review and building cost code inspections. The big idea here is in unincorporated Cochise County, eligible rural landowners can build their own residential structures with reduced permitting costs and less building safety oversight. The county says the program is for owner builders, not commercial builders. Okay, so who qualifies? This is all the zoning that qualifies. This is what we are. It's RU4, if I remember right. RU4. You see it? That's what it appears to be. So let's go back. Okay, two options for the opt-out. I'm going to only read option 2 because that's the one I'm kind of talking about. No construction plan review or no building code inspection. This is the real opt-out plan people talk about. The county does not review your construction plans and does not do any building safety code inspections. This is kind of the direction I would be going if I was buying it. I'm a younger man or somebody that's going to go the off-grid route, and this is a cheap way for around $5-6 grand, whatever this ends up at, and you end up with 120 acres. That is absolutely pretty much mind boggles. Now, you still will need to get a septic or an approval for an alternate wastewater permit. Right-of-way permits may be required, okay? And we want to talk about some of that a little bit here. And that's kind of all I'm going to go over. Now, I'm going to scroll through this, so if you wanted to pause and you wanted to read through this, you can do that. Okay? So now, this is the questions I posed to the chat on the next one. I presented the parcels, said these parcels are being sold. Can you tell me about other parcels in the areas? Give me a pin. And what were your thoughts on the value of this property? That's what I asked chat. So you have to be careful when you do research with AI, because it makes mistakes. And I would beg to differ with its final conclusion on the value of this price of this property. Okay? And then it gives you this link for the tax deed, which if you wanted to look at, there it is. Sorry, it's very small, but these are the RU4, the zoning, and these are all I guess the summer tax sales out in that area that it's referring to. So, yeah. Now, that's not on this auction website. Some of them may be, but this is a different list. And now, do you get deeds with this? Do you have to go through the process of a normal tax sale where you pay 3 years of back taxes and, kind of do all that, which is beyond the scope of this video? I'm not certain. You'd have to investigate that. So with that said, though, we're going to look deeper here. And it's giving you some comps here that it discovered. Now, I didn't have access, I guess, to some of the research I did, and we'll get into that here shortly. And so it's saying, here's some 40 acres, here's 20 acres, 20 acres. So it tried. It did come up with some information here. And it says, this tells me the value is about $1,000 per acre. That's what it's assessing the value at. And so it's saying low comp range was $120,000 for those 120 acres. And this is where I beg to differ. I think that is way high, personally. If I was going into looking at to buy this, my value would be much, much lower. Now, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that it's wrong. All right, that's what I'm saying. But again, this is for entertainment purposes only. This doesn't mean jack, okay? So let's get into why I think that. Now, this is the MLS. And so I searched the MLS. Each one of these blue dots here are properties that have sold, okay? And you can see we're right in the area. Yeah, I mean, if we're right here, you see this big lake bed, which you got to wonder, where does the water that once came to that? I think it's going through the property. Look at that. You know what I'm saying? So, with that said, but it's still, honestly, I find the property quite interesting. And this area is kind of beautiful. I've been out in this area a few times. So let's go back to memory. That's above that. And here's this structure that we're wondering, what is that? That's in the middle parcel. Okay, but let's look at this road here that's going through here. You see it? This Solar Run Road. It's coming through here. Look at that road. It's on this Google Maps. So what I'm trying to get at is this could be a right-of-way going through this property. Let's say you bought this property. It's something to keep in mind. This could be a right-of-way where somebody, could you block that up? I don't know. I don't know. But look at these big washes here. I love exploring. And here's your mountain. Look at that. Beautiful. Barren land, folks. Barren land. And then you scroll out. And what do we see? There it is. The big wash bed. You see it? And so here's these, and then here's this between here, right? And that's where we're at. So let's go back to this, and you see it? There's it, and here's between these two. So folks, these are strong comps that I'm referring to, okay? These are strong comps right here. You can see inside of here how close this comp is. You see? It's right over in here. This land is. This land right here sold for $15,000 just a couple months ago. 15 grand, 40 acres. That's the strongest comp. I would look at this property between, if I always go very conservative. Very conservative. I think that was a pretty quick sell. They wanted like 22 grand. They came down to 15 to likely move it. Okay. So the way I look at that land out here that we're looking at, I go shy 30 to 45,000. That's how I would look at it. Now, if I were to sell it, I would ask for the moon. You can always go down It's really hard to go up once you went down, you know. So you put it on the market, and the first guy that comes up and buys it, and it's only been on the market for a day, you're going to think, geez, I should have sold that for more money. So I always start high as far as that goes. But I'm telling you that our robot friend here, which that's what he is a tool, you know, saying that this is worth low end 120 grand. He's pulling his data from his thing, and I'm pulling my data from my thing, and we are coming up with night and day numbers here. Opinion, and this is the lowest comp, by the way. They go up from there. Okay. All these dots here, that's around in here. You see these dots? Now they're in better areas. Look at them. You see what I mean? This is land that is what I'm comparing to is close to apples as possible. These over here is apple to oranges, more or less. You know what I'm saying? We don't really know, especially this one. Look, this one's right up in here. Look at this one over in here, way over in here by these home sites. And they're smaller lots, likely. You know, here's this solar run. That same, and that you know, these are all, and I'm not going to click on them and show you the information about them, okay, because I don't know if they're all public or where they're at. Chat may even refer to some of them. That would be public. These right here that chat's pointing out to, that's public, so I don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong showing you that. But I'm not going to show you the details of this other than this one right here sold for 15 grand, okay, and it's 40 acres. You see this round square here? That's it. This square right here. That's the grid for 40 acres. I think that's a parcel, or is that a grid? Yeah, that actually may not be the full acreage. Yeah, don't quote me on that. But it's, you know, you get the idea. It's a lot of dirt that sold for 15 grand. You know, that's a fact. Is there stuff in there? I don't see anything really in there. Wait. See, look at these grid lines even more. So it's over in here. This is not what sold. It's over in here. You see what I mean? So that's what we're looking at, folks, okay? So so you can see people's out here doing it. This is that same road going up through there. You know, look at this. You just keep scrolling up, and voila, that's where this land that's being sold. So here they are roughing it. You see them? A lot of stuff here. Look at this. They're doing it. And this road looks better up to here, but you're gonna have to maintain your own road. You gotta do some work to get to that. You know, get this to your likeliness. And so this is it. Right here is it. This is the land that's being sold. I think that's a fairly accurate comp for what we're looking at here. And that's what I try to do when I buy any kind of land or dirt. Up here, I bought the land sight unseen. I don't recommend that. You know, get in your four-wheel drive truck with some shovels and some water. Don't go out there with lots of water. I'm up here where it's beautiful. You know, I'm not going to die from thirst within one day, but out there, it's brutal. You get stuck or broke down or something like that. Yeah, you need a lot of water. Don't go out there and be stupid. Okay, but go out there. That's what I would recommend. Go out there if you're going to bid on it. Go out there and see what you're bidding on, especially if you plan on living out there. And then tell me, post a comment in there and tell me what this is. I need to know. I have to know. And look at this. This is a deep trench. It's trench. Look at these trenches. Where is the trench going? I think it's going to that lake bed. This is all used to be a dry lake bed here. Oh, it's all the way over in here. Yeah, I don't think so. Now I'm looking at it. Yeah, it's not going to that lake bed. Yeah, it's not. But it's still very interesting. You know, you could dam that up and, you know, have yourself a little lake. Yeah. It's cool. So the last one we're gonna look at, I've never looked at this one, so I'm gonna look at this with you. There's two bids, and they're $50 increments. Currently, it's at $3,050, so to bid would be $3,100. Okay, so let's see what this is, and this is a 0.36 of an acre. The zoning is MH72. So there it is, just as simple as that. There it is. So you can see why people's bidding on it, because this is likely going to have utilities to the lot line. Pretty obvious here. Okay, so if you're not the guy that wants to live with the snakes and the scorpions out in the middle of nowhere, and you know, fight Bigfoot and all that stuff, this is probably for you. More in your line. I'm not saying any of these are for you. This is entertainment purposes only, folks. But I'm entertaining myself by looking at it. I like looking at these things. And so these are mobile homes out here. You can obviously build a house on them, on an MU or whatever the zoning number is, and so you can see it's a pretty big development here. And it's a chunk of dirt too. Look at. That's that. If this interests you, please give me a like, thumbs up, help me out there. I'd really appreciate it, friends. And subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.